Okay. Okay, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Okay. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all our Sandoval homeowners for this association town hall meeting. First, I'd like to ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. The purpose of this meeting is for the Safety and Security Committee to present the results of the recently completed traffic calming survey, discuss their recommendations based on that survey, and other observations the committee has made over the past year regarding safety and traffic in the community, and more importantly, to solicit feedback from the community. So this is really the important part where they give a little information, but it's important to get your comments back. The basic structure for tonight is that Ed Coronado will be presenting on behalf of the Safety and Security Committee. He'll be presenting the survey background, the results, and what the next steps are. Once Ed has completed his presentation, we'll go into an extended question and answer session. I will be moderating the Q&A session so that we can give every person who wishes to speak a chance to do so. I'm going to ask that you keep your initial comments to 3 minutes each so that we have time for some back and forth. And then if we get into an extended dialogue, I may ask you to pause so we can bring another person up so they can get their questions in, because we've only got this scheduled for an hour, and I really want to make sure everybody who wants to say something has a chance to say what they'd like. Also, tonight, Sandoval is trialing some new technology for these town hall forums. We are using Zoom as the medium for broadcasting this meeting. The reason that we are trying to get familiar with Zoom is that we're trying to be able to have a more interactive dialogue with remote attendees for future events. As with any new technology, we may hit some rough spots tonight, so I'm going to ask for your patience. I'd also like to thank Vic and Jack for all the work they have done to give this a try, especially Vic. He spent 2 hours with me giving him a lot of second guesses about how this was going to work last night. So thank you for your help with this. Also, one of the things that we've worked out, that Vic has been able to work out, is that we are simulcasting this over our YouTube channel, that normally where you get our board meetings. So this will be recorded on YouTube if you want to go back and hear the presentation at your leisure again. So when we get to the Q&A portion of the meeting, I will go over how the remote attendees can ask a question, and be part of the dialogue. Now, Ed.
Well, welcome, residents. My name is Ed Coronado. My background in law enforcement in New York City was highway patrol. I did accident investigating for 9 years when someone gets killed or it's a serious accident. All throughout the city, whatever borough, 5 boroughs I had to be in someplace in those boroughs when nobody was working on vacation, I took over. Oh, okay, yep. So the biggest thing is that I have a passion for this community. I've been living here almost 6 years. I used to ride by here once my bike when it was sand, and I've been in Cape Coral for 25 years. And I just love this community. It's just an amazing place. You guys are so awesome, and we'd like to try and keep it that way. That's our goal. Safety is important. It's crucial that we respect the rules and regulations that are in force right now. So with that being said, let's see what else. So we had Christine Peterson was the chairperson on the committee, and John Grohl. Both of them are not going to be on the committee anymore. So we have 2 more people that we're going to adopt into the committee. And when that happens, we'll know for sure. But right now it's just me. So bear with me on this. And Lynn's been helping out, thank God. Yeah. Okay, we're going. Yep, here we go. So, and actually, I've met with this, the police chief Sizemore twice. Once back in 2019, And back about 6 months ago, we met Sizemore. We wanted to pick his brain, since he is the police chief, and he has jurisdiction in this area, in Cape Coral. So my background, I'm able to understand what he's talking about. He understands what I'm talking about. And one of the things we discussed was the safety in the community. So he actually recommended that we need to get the community on board to understand what we're up against. And we talked about that a little bit. He recommended that we do a survey to see how the residents feel about enacting any mitigating equipment or, signs, things like that. So that's what we did. And we had a really good meeting with Chief Sizemore. And we came up, actually Christine, I got to give her the credit. She came up with she's brilliant. She just put it all together. She came up with the survey. We actually had 509 unique responses. And we had two parts to the survey, part one, part two. Part one, we wanted to determine what the community attitude was. And part two, we have the specific traffic mitigation approaches. So I can switch over now. So the first part of the survey, we see that on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate the overall traffic safety situation in our community? Now, here we go. Number 1, that would be people that are very concerned, or actually people that are least concerned. And 5 were people that are, what? I got one. Yeah, very, okay. Got to get that mixed up. Oh, hold on. Yeah, so 1 is very poor.
Excuse me a second.
Yeah.
So we're going to delay Q&A until Ed has finished his presentation. So iPad 2, we will we'll unmute you then.
Yeah, so 1 is very poor, and 5 is excellent. All right, so the community feels that, if you look at the graph in addition to this, you see that 34 people, or 6.7%, feel there's undefinite very poor. And then on the other end, 54 people, or 10.6%, felt that it is excellent. Okay, so then in the middle, we have this tall piece here that says 183 people, or 36%, feel that we have to probably do something. Now, do you feel safe walking or cycling on the community streets? And we have 509 respondents. Out of that, we have 53.6% indicate that they do feel safe. And then I have a smaller majority, 12.4%, indicate that they don't feel safe. And then a group that says, 34%, that says it depends on where we're located or where we are in the community. The next question is for mitigation. So please rank the following traffic concerns in Sandoval in order of importance to you and your family, from the most important, which is 1, the blue, to the least important, which is 5, the purple. And we can see that if you look through, look at the graph, and you find that a lot of people do feel that we have to do something with the speeding. It's something that they feel it's least important. Number 1 is least important, but number 5 being most important. So most of the people feel it's not that important. Speeding on the side streets is not that important. And running stop signs, right? Am I right? So, number 1, least important to most important, 5.
1 is most important.
Oh, 1 is most important. I got you. Okay. 1, that's what I thought. 1 is the most, that's the blue, most important. So we do have a significant amount of people that think it's important. And speeding on the side streets and speeding on the Parkway and Boulevard. And then least important is running stop signs on the Sandoval Parkway and also on the side streets. Yeah, it's kind of most important, number 1, just the blue.
So, but I think, just to step in for Ed for a minute, I think what's the main message out of this is that the most concern is around speeding on the main streets and not stopping at the stop sign on the main streets. Those were the chief concerns expressed by the community.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so now we have a question that says, do you support the addition of speed bumps in the community? Well, obviously, Overwhelmingly no, 71% said no, and 28% said yes. So, do you support the addition of speed tables in the community? 63.9% say no, and
Because people want to
36%
speed.
say,
It happens.
oh, somebody's talking.
No, 63.2.
63.9% say no, and 36% say yes. Okay. Next. Rumble strips. 61.7 no, and 38.3 yes. Do you support adding more speed limit signs? All right, we have 65.2% no and 34.8% yes. Do you support adding LED speed limit signs? No, 65.8. Yes, 34.2. Do you support adding feedback speed limit signs? 56% say no and 44% say yes. Do you support adding LED stop signs? 55% say no and 45% say yes. Do you support a speed monitoring program that would warn and eventually fine those going 10 miles or more over the speed limit?
Eddie.
How many know? Okay. 54% say no and 46% say yes. Do you support a stop sign monitoring program that would warn and eventually fine those failing to stop at a stop sign? 60% say no, 39%.
Community is so stupid.
Do you want to do a reminder on muting?
Yes, could everybody please mute themselves? We can hear who's ever talking.
Do you support a stop sign monitoring program that would warn and eventually fine those failing to stop at a stop sign? 60% say no, 39% say yes. And then please rank in the order of the most important. Okay, 1 to the least important 3. So number 1 in the blue is the most important, and number 3 in the yellow is the least important. So we see here we have not too much, it's not too important to people for having physical barriers, visual reminders, but it is important to target individual violators. I found that interesting. Yeah. So I look at this and I say, wow, most people don't feel like they really want to do too much about or mitigate what's happening. But then we see that at this level, we have over 200 people that say targeting the individual violators. So we have to deal with that. Yeah. So one of the things we discussed, we've been discussing this for a while, the crosswalk paint is starting to wear out, especially south of this four-way stop sign. And we walked it with some of the contractors, and we were able to figure out a way to repaint it with glass beads. It'll stand out really well at nighttime. The white does shine out, and I think that'll be a really good assist for us to, when you're driving, especially at night, to see those crosswalks. The crosswalk signs that are in all the crosswalks were actually put in just before the hurricane, and a lot of them got damaged, and Brian and I worked together to get some new ones installed, and those are really nice. I think those worked a lot, helped a lot on the crosswalks, traveling back and forth on the boulevard and the parkway. So we continue to investigate speed visual reminders, encourage awareness and positive behavior, and continue capture more accurate traffic data. Okay, that's going to be something we can do. Work with the landscape committee and associate to improve visibility of existing stop signs, cutting the trees, trimming them. Some of the bushes are blocking some of the running paths and stuff like that. So, and then continue community dialogue. I mean, we're a safety committee. We're not making any rules. We just want to know what the community feels would be the best solution to mitigate possibly running into a situation where we have a serious accident And someone could be hurt seriously or killed. We don't want that. And thank God, we've been really doing well. And I think a lot of it's because the people that do use the facilities and everything in this community are fairly careful. There's people that come in here that do not live here, and they're not as careful. So we've got to deal with that. You can't just turn a blind eye towards it and say there's nothing wrong.
All right, we'll switch over to the Q&A part now. Okay. So. All right. Vic, I'm assuming we're still on here, correct? Okay. Okay. All right, so we have 16 or 17 participants on remotely. And what we're going to do is we'll first give someone a chance from the local audience to ask a question, and then we'll switch over to someone remotely when they raise their hand. So first, let's start with the audience here who has a question. Lady in the back, could you come up and speak into the mic, please?
So you said one of the
Could you
ways,
identify yourself, please?
Denise Garvin. So you said one of the ways that you're recommending is trimming of bushes. I love that idea. There are side streets that when you're pulling out, you almost have to go into the road to see what's coming from the other side. So I was wondering, is there a way for us to report to the safety committee when we have that particular issue, or is there a different method that you would want us to say, hey, this particular bush, because it might not be time for the cycle, but some of the bushes have these crazy growth spurts and grow like crazy in a week or two. Is there a way for us to report that there's a bush or whatever blocking the line of sight to get it trimmed?
Yes.
Bill,
One second.
can you please take this off of presentation mode and put it in so that we can see the speakers?
Oh, okay.
Do you want to come up, Dave? Why don't you come up to the microphone so they can see you if they want you to come up? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes.
Okay. There you go.
Look on our window, the main presenter.
Okay. All right, Dave, why don't you talk?
Rather than contact the Safety and Security Committee, if there's an issue with visibilities on side streets, I'd rather you contact the Landscape Committee so that they can look at it. There have been 2 areas that have been identified already, and we have already taken care of the issue, but I just think it'd be quicker if you came directly to the Landscape Committee. I do not remember the email address, but I can get it to you.
For Juniper.
No, Landscape Committee.
To the committee. I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a good idea.
SCAlandscape613@gmail.com.
Okay. Pardon me?
People still ready to feel this week.
You're not getting the audio or you're not getting my video?
Video,
Well, I can turn the video back on for me if you want. Okay. All right. Is that good? All right. Now, will one of the remote participants like to raise their hand to ask a question, and we'll unmute you. Okay, because I believe there was iPad 2, you had a question before. I'll unmute you. Actually, you got to do it, Beck.
Oh, I'm on. Okay, there we go. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes,
hi.
ask your question.
I'm Gary and Eileen Datsko. We live on Anguilla. And when we moved into Anguilla in 2012, it was a nice, quiet cul-de-sac. And just like the rest of phase one and most all phase two. But when phase three was put in, we now have the only through street in Anguilla, or in Sandoval. So once that happened, Anguilla turned into Anguilla Motor Speedway. We got people rushing out of phase three, doing 35, 40 miles an hour, trying to get to the Trafalgar Gate all the time. And I don't know what we're going to do to stop them. So what do you suggest?
Yeah, I kind of understand what you're saying. I ride my bike through the community quite often. Yeah, that could be a point where people want to cross over into the parkway from coming in from Surfside and just take that shortcut. Well, I'm not sure exactly what we can do as far as mitigation over there, but we'll work on it. We'll take a better look at.
I really wish you would make
Better
that
look.
a priority, because I've
Yeah.
seen near accidents there a number of times.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I don't know. It's just very frustrating that most of the community who voted don't want any kind of physical barriers, because that's the only thing that works.
Yeah, people who voted who don't want speed bumps or tables they don't live on Anguilla. There's 95% of the people who don't live on Anguilla, so they don't know, so they don't want speed bumps on their streets, but they don't care about our street.
Okay.
Yeah, we get so many walkers up there too, people walking. And, we just have the one sidewalk. It's really not wide enough for, like, if you have a couple and a dog, you cannot walk on the sidewalk. It's not enough room. So you're walking on the street. And I'll tell you, those cars are they just drive so fast. And I don't know. I just think that phase three residents or anybody that doesn't live on Anguilla shouldn't be on that street, just using it as a shortcut. But it's going to happen.
Okay, we'll take a look at it. Lynn, you're writing that down?
I've got all of the
Okay.
questions.
Secretary took care of it.
Good.
Yeah, if only.
All
I
right.
think you had one more in the audience right
Yes,
here.
we have one more person that wanted to raise their hand in the audience. Stu, come on up. All right, hold on. Okay, Stu.
Stu Seckler. I live on Braille. Like you, I was a policeman. I was in the suburbs, and we didn't have any communities like this, but we had a lot of apartment complexes. And all the apartment complexes that did have problems with speeding cars ended up putting in speed bumps. Not little whirly gigs on top of stop signs, which people look at as they drive through the stop signs, or see how fast they're going, looking at the speed sign, that's posted over there, just to see how fast they can go on their bike or their scooters. But my point is, they have speed bumps that are solid concrete we could put in, or we could also have ones that are plastic and just put a couple of small holes in the ground and put them in, temporarily or whatever. And if you think that's a problem by putting the holes in the ground, you're doing the same thing with the pedestrian stop signs or crosswalks. You're putting holes in the ground there too. So if people complain about the holes because you're putting in the speed bumps, you're doing the same thing with the crosswalks. So, and I personally think everyone who said they didn't want the speed bumps are the people that aren't stopping for the stop signs. And if we're doing the writing people tickets for speeding, those are still the same people that are blowing through the stop signs. So we're not, you may slow them down a little bit, but they're still not going to stop at the stop signs. I guarantee if you go to any of these intersections, because like you, I go around this community a lot walking, 90% of the people do not stop, which means come to a complete halt. Not just keep rolling through and looking right and left and rolling through. You need something there to make sure they stop. Just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So we did a lot of investigating, and I've been doing this for 5 years, and I got to tell you, I talked to even Chief Sizemore. I hope he don't get mad at me, but he feels that that might be one of the ways that we'll be able to control speeding. Think about this. People come through this development. They don't live here. If we did put up a situation where we were to enforce a fine on the people, and they don't live here, we pretty much would be missing them. They just go right out through our community. So we got to think about that. If you have a speed bump, or I don't even like bump, I like the hump, I like a curtain where it's not as obtrusive. You go over it, you know you're going to have to slow down a little bit. Keep your speed limit to around 20 to 30 miles per hour. The speed curtains or tables are about 12 feet long. They're about the distance of the wheelbase of a car. So you don't get that abrupt feeling when you drive over it. Problem with them, they're a little bit expensive, so we have to look into it. But what we want to do is what everybody feels will work. I know that will work, slowing everybody down, regardless of whether you live here or not. So that's my opinion. If anybody has any other ones, we can hear it.
Okay. All right, thanks. So is there anyone else attending remotely that'd like to ask a question or make a statement?
Bill, I would. I don't know how to raise my hand, but this is Susan Donaldson. This is Susan Donaldson. I live on Blackburn. 2 points that I'd like to make. One, I think we need to be real cautious about how we interpret the data. I think having the survey was a great idea. I appreciate the committee seeking feedback from residents. But just remember that all of those fields were required in the survey. So, for example, there was one of the last slides, the comment was that there's 200 people who think that targeting violators is important. And I'm a CPA, I come from a data-driven career, and that's not what that chart says to me at all. It says that 200 of the people ranked it first because it was a required field. So they think it's more important than the other two options, but they not necessarily do they think it's important. So I think we need to be cautious on data. The other thing that I'm just in response to what you were saying, I am a person who does not want speed barriers. I don't think they're necessary. I think there are negative implications for them. And I'm certainly not one who speeds through the neighborhood or doesn't stop at the stop sign. So again, I think it's a broad assumption that you're making on who does and does not want the barriers. The other question I have is, I know there's some type of limitation for the Cape Coral Police coming in and actually patrolling the streets. Is that completely out of the realm of possibility or not? Because I don't want my HOA ticketing residents and not ticketing others, but if police had the opportunity to do that, then so be it.
Okay. All right, Susan, this is Bill Simonelli. I'm going to try to address your last question. Let me just, so I know that the Safety and Security Committee and the board has looked at bringing in the Cape Coral Police to do, enforcement of the speed and stop signs. And we've had various dialogues, and in the end, if we're willing to make some accommodations with them, it's going to be, in my opinion, a very expensive proposition for the community to bear. Because not only do you have to pay for the specific patrolmen that are coming through the community, you have to pay for their duty sergeant and one other person in the chain of command. So you're basically, for every patrol person you have, you're paying 3 or 4x to have that advantage. So unfortunately, yes, ultimately we could figure out to do it, but you're probably talking, I'm going to say roughly adding $250,000 to our HOA expenses to make that happen.
Is that full-time or is that just random?
Just random. I mean, if it was full-time, you'd be talking 7 figures, because you basically would have a full-time staff of 4 policemen assigned to this community. And the other thing we have to recognize is that the law enforcement agencies here in this part of Florida are understaffed, and they are trying to recruit more officers, so they have to provide priority to the areas where they have the most need, which are the troubled neighborhoods, and respond to the more emergency situations. So from a priority perspective, even if we were willing to write the check, it might take 6 months before they could get around to getting staffed well enough to do it and not be delinquent in their primary obligations. So these are all these things we have to take into account when we look into this as an option. I would love to have law enforcement in the community, because I think it would help just from a behavior modification perspective, but it'd be an expensive lesson, in my opinion. So, but it's something that the board will have to look at over time, and we'll have to do that. Okay.
Is there any additional questions?
Do you have any other additional questions? All right.
I have a question, sir.
Okay, Doug, let me put you on full screen. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is a follow-on to Susan's question. And I just want to understand better the use of regular police. Much like a private event or other things, isn't there an off-duty cop option? They're still police officers. They still have authority. We could pay an off-duty police officer to come in 4 hours a week or something like that. He would still have the authority to write tickets, yes?
I'd have to, Doug, this is Bill Simonelli. I'd have to look into that in more detail. I do know that in order for the tickets to be held, we would have to do license plate checks. So that off-duty police officer would have to have access to the online databases to check the license plates of the person who's suspected of violation. So so it's not just paying that one head count, it's paying for access to secure information that a normal off-duty citizen shouldn't have access to.
Understood, and thank you.
Okay. Yes, we got a question for you. Come on, Chuck. Our general manager's got a point to make here. Hold on.
Yeah, see, I knew you were gonna.
You do it.
No, you do it.
No.
There you go.
You want to steal your
Go ahead, Chuck. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, both Chuck and I, we discussed the idea of having law enforcement in here, which I would love, but the way the community was set up, it's not really designed by the DOT. So in order for police officers to take action in here, we'd have to change a lot of things. It would be very costly. I think they'd have to raise the speed limit to 30 miles per hour. Am I correct?
Right.
And that's not going to be good. We don't want people going faster. I mean, so, the ideal thing would be for everybody to just watch their speedometers when they're driving and police themselves. I mean, that would be great. We'd save a lot of money and there'd be no problem. But obviously, enough people are not doing that. So we're trying to figure out how to mitigate it.
Okay. So do we have someone else locally or remotely that'd like to make a point?
I'd like to make a point.
All right, Lori, we'll let you go. Then Andrew's going to talk. Hey, Lori, go ahead.
Thank you. Here, I'm from Canada, and what we've done recently in our little town is we have cameras, speed cameras. So the speed cameras work where you're allowed 2 to 3, well, here it's kilometers, so it would be like maybe a mile or 2 more than what you go, so 24 plus 2. Anything above that, they get ticketed. It's not a ticket against their insurance, but it's a ticket nonetheless. And the money that is collected throughout the year goes back to the infrastructure of our town. So if the infrastructure of Sandoval, so people would be paying more should they speed. So it wouldn't affect everybody's HOA by any stretch of the imagination, but then, they would be paying more HOA if they were speeding, because the money that we would collect would go right back into Sandoval for our community. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Let me just, I'll make a comment on that, or if anyone else from Safety and Security would like to comment on that also. This was a path that I know the Safety and Security Committee was looking at going down 6 months ago. And it was, at the top level, it was very attractive. In fact, I was personally in favor of it when I first heard the idea. But one of the things that we have to take into account, being in Florida and a homeowners association, we have to abide by the rules of Florida legislation 720, which governs the administration of a homeowners association. So not only would we have to spend reserve dollars to put in the infrastructure to do this, we would have to beef up our covenants committee with more members, have more frequent hearings to go through the prescribed process that the Florida law requires a person to go through. And essentially, we would turn our covenants committee into a traffic court. So when you start looking at the administrative burden, you have to add additional overhead into the administrative staff so that they can handle the paperwork associated with it. We would need more volunteers to act as traffic judges in the community, and I don't know if we're struggling to get people to be on safety and security. How many people want to say, you sped, you owe us money, and then walk away and not worry about they're going to get a kick in the butt about it?
And I think another question, and I'm going to, if I'm not interrupting, but add
Go
it
ahead.
on. And what's going to happen if you don't pay for your ticket?
We have to go through a whole violations process, and it just, we still need to be looking at that, but I think, one, they got risk management together with safety, security, and with Associa, and you started walking through all the different aspects that were required in order to make this a viable process. I think everybody looked at each other and said, this needs a lot more work at the chalkboard before we think this is something to talk to the community about again. So I think that there's ongoing discussion, but I think there's a lot of practical issues that need to be done before it can be brought back to the community and say, are we ready to go for this?
Also, Bill, in addition, we looked at it and I thought it was a good idea. First thing I thought about, there's a lot of people that don't live here. You cannot give these people a summons. What do you do with them, right? That becomes just basically they're going to get away scot-free. No one can do anything to them unless you can find out who they're going to say. I don't even know how they would do that.
Well, you can't because as a private entity, we don't have access to the license plate database. That's against the law.
So that's a big issue, right?
Yeah.
Ed and Bill, the other issue that we had when I met with the Safety and Security Committee back last September or October, it was brought to my attention that, you're bringing the very valid point up. We can only issue summons / tickets / violations to those plates that the association has on record through our management company. So what does that basically state is we're probably going to only be able to enforce this speed and or stoplight cameras on 1/3 of the violators that come, that perpetrate the violation. At the end of the day, we get the third in compliance. You're still dealing with 2/3 that we have no access, given the fact we're a private entity and don't have access to public record of license plates to be able to issue those tickets out. And that was one of my big concerns is here we're going to have this expense of speed cameras. And if we look at, or stoplight cameras, and if we look at the survey that was just conducted, it's the least supported method of enforcement. I look at it and say we don't have the support of the community, and it doesn't make a fiscal sense. As I stated, I've stated at several board meetings and at the Safety and Security Committee meeting that I attended. This is really a will versus skill thing. If the community as a whole, our guests, our vendors, anybody who's entering those gates are unwilling to comply with our stop signs or comply with our with our speed signs, there is actually sadly very little we can do at this point versus except for considering actions that slow you down. So some type of physical barrier. I know that's not something that the community supports either, but sometimes governments / committees / boards of directors have to make uncomfortable decisions that may cost them their seats. I do think we have options to look at. I think rumble strips would be something to start with at our stop signs. So I'll leave it at that.
I'd like to thank all of you for your comments, and I appreciate the explanation, and that makes makes a lot of sense. It's not only about our people in the community, but it's the people outside the community that we have to think about as well. So thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Hey, Bill, this is Jeff Smith. I'd like to kind of extend some of the comments that were just made. And while I agree that, safety has got to be a top concern, and I do see, even the bicyclists in the morning, as people are walking, they're running through stop signs. They're as much of a hazard as some of the cars, in my opinion. But I think we as a community have a larger prevalent problem in that, we have people running through the gates and damaging the gates and the arms on a very regular basis. So until we're able to solve that more reliably, some of these other steps, I think we're just going to continue to ask for violations. So I'm wondering how we can go back to the very beginning and say, okay, right at the entrance of Sandoval, would you pick an entrance? I don't really care which, but let's be compliant there first, and then look at how can we be compliant at the speeds and the compliance towards stop signs, those kind of things, because I think one kind of ties to another.
Okay, who am I talking to?
Respond to Jeff.
Jeff, so yeah, you're right. Entering the communities is really important, because when you come in, you get the feel of what's happening. Sometimes people are just not paying attention. They're on their phones. I'm not sure exactly how to address the entrance situation where people just come in here and start to go a little fast. So we thought there's quite a few things. I sat down with many of the producers of these speed limit signs and that flash and the cameras, the bumps, the this, and I just went through all of this stuff. We had people come and do demonstrations here and show us how the cameras could work and how they would, be effective. And I really don't have a passion for any of it, except for the idea that we have to slow them down with perhaps some physical thing like some sort of a speed, either hump or curtain, which would just help people to realize they're going too fast. We could do flashing speed limit signs. It would flash the person's speed that they're actually going. Sometimes people don't realize they're going that fast. And I gave out thousands of speeding summonses in my job in the city. And most of the times when I stopped the person, they very really knew that they were going as fast as the radar indicated or how fast I thought they were going. So, that becomes another issue. I still think my gut feeling is the best way to deal with it is through mitigating by some kind of a hump or a curtain to just let them realize that they're going too fast when they run over that. But we're working on it. We don't give up. We're going to keep pursuing to find out what the best course of action is to take. And if you have any recommendations or, things that you like to add, just let us know.
I guess the thing I would just add to you, don't be discouraged by maybe some of the responses, because, as a person that responded to the survey myself, I think the signage that we have in the community is good already. So I didn't personally ask or respond by saying, I think we need more or different signage, because I think the signage that's there is good, whether it's speed limits or stop signs. It's people got to pay attention to it.
Yes, I agree.
I just want to key off of one thing Ed said. Obviously, it's very good if anybody's got ideas to share with the committee, but the committee could use some new people.
That's right.
So if you're interested, I think Lynn and Ed would welcome you with open arms and to share your opinions, be part of the process and help us come up with some solutions. Okay, do we have anybody in the audience that'd like to talk? Of course, come on up.
And I want to go last.
Of course. I know. You're my guest. Broadcast yourself.
Rob Heron, Belita Court. I had sent something to the committee about striping, that I found a survey of another HOA in California, or multiple HOAs that.
In Newport Beach, California.
Yes.
I can tell you all the statistics. I memorized all 4 pages.
Okay. I don't know if any thought was given to striping at least the boulevard and the parkway, because you have a 30-foot wide road and it's clear sailing in front of you. It kind of lends itself toward speeding. So that was a thought I had.
And the ironic part of it is he sent that article out to read, and I lived in Southern California in Newport Beach right there for 12 years, and a neighbor of mine and a good friend, a good work colleague, lives and still lives in that neighborhood that was cited by the company that did that. So I called her, I said, oh my gosh, it was like a voice from the past. She said, it's still there, it's still working, and there are several more communities within all over that have reached out and have come on site to see what they have done and what a success it's been. So go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll let you finish on that, because I just had one other point, which was that the different mitigations, rumble strips and tables, the only one that I said would be okay is the tables, because they just kind of slow you down. They don't really make you stop and go over it like a speed bump does. And what worries me is,
excuse me,
sorry.
Robert, Ed, could you explain what the difference is between a speed table and rumble
Okay,
strips are for everybody?
I'm just gonna, I got like one, just let me finish it, just that, the only thing concerns me is, I don't want speed tables and then a stop sign, and then we end up with a belt and suspenders, and it's like, if you're already going 24, and you've got to stop here, and you've got to slow down for speed tables, it's like, okay, come on, like, for the people that are actually doing what they're supposed to do, I don't want to get punished for that too. So anyway, and I'll let you talk about Newport Beach and you talk about speed tables.
Great explanation here. Why don't you tell them that?
So, yeah.
Hold it up so the video can see it.
Yeah, this is some of the options. I don't know if you can see these.
Here, I'll hold it up, you talk.
Okay. So you have the speed table in the middle there. I thought that was one of the, it's kind of like you would go over that and your wheelbase would still remain on the speed table. It's so deep and you don't feel that abrupt bump. But it's designed to keep the speed limits down to 20 to 30 miles per hour. I find that to be the best mitigating source on the parkway and the boulevard. On the line painting and stuff like that, you got to be careful, because if you put a solid line up, basically people can't cross over that. And we have a lot of times when you have to pass, and it's gonna become an issue. You got to pass the bikes are there, and you got to go over the line, and then another car's coming. I don't know, it's just doing lines. I don't think that's gonna slow our community down. But we'll look into it. I definitely did see the video. I believe you sent me that video, and we'll look into it further. And whatever we can do to make it work. I mean, that's what we're here for.
Just paint?
It's paint, a solid line. You could use a yellow. It's one of those. I like white because it has the glass beads in there, which makes it reflect at nighttime. So I'm not a big yellow fan, but you could. It's an option. You could put broken solid white lines. I don't know how that would, work out. Whether or not that would actually put law-abiding citizens, would give them the encouragement to slow down. I don't know, but that's California. Maybe it worked over there. I'm not sure. Working in New York, I know that wouldn't slow people down, but it's certainly worth taking a look at. We'll do anything we need to do to make it work. It's not about what I believe. It's about what works, and that's going to be something we'd have to maybe do a little test. Any other questions?
They're asking which one. It's the table.
It's the one in the top in the middle.
I don't understand what is striping. What are you talking about?
Well, let him explain it to you, because he's the one that sent the video. Yes. Thank you. That's good. Appreciate it.
It was a study that I found of, it was multiple, actually, HOAs. They were in California. It was about 10, 12 years ago. It's been around for a while. And essentially what they found was that if you just putting stripes down the middle of the road, visually, people, now they're in half a road. They're not in a 30-foot wide or whatever we have, 28 feet wide road. They're in a lane. They're not, on a gigantic highway. So it slowed people. That didn't slow them down from 50 to 30, but on average, people were 2 or 3 miles an hour slower, which there may be no magic bullet solution, but like every little bit helps. And if you're already going the speed limit and you're staying in your lane, it doesn't really bother you. It's to try and get people that are maybe all over the road or really speeding to slow down at least a little bit. So anyway, that's.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Bill, it's Lori
Yes.
again.
Yes, Laurie.
I just have a comment, and I've seen it myself personally, is at Somerville Loop and the exit towards Veterans, that last stop sign there, I cannot tell you, it's countless times that people are not stopping, and it's so dangerous there because you have your visitors, people coming in, you have the people who live in Sandoval coming in, the residents, so they're trying to make a left to go into Somerville Loop. So that person making the left has to watch out for your visitors. Then they have to watch out for the people going through that stop sign. And I don't know how many times, even me personally, I have almost been hit. Because now I'm looking to make sure the visitors, because I see that gate open, so I'm looking to make sure the visitors are not going to come and hit me. So as I and I'm not going fast, obviously, as I'm going to make my left, that person is going through the stop sign. I think out of all of Sandoval, that seems to be one of the most dangerous entrances, and that stop sign. I wish there would be something there that could be more. I don't even know if a bar coming down, like you have to stop here. It's a 3-way stop. Well, it's 2-way, I guess. So that's my comment. I don't have a solution, but really I'm afraid of that entrance. It's very scary.
Yeah. My relatives live in there, and I have my pastor lives in there, and I ride my bike through it all the time. It is a scary spot because you cannot see the vehicles coming in from the entrance, and it's precarious to say the least. We'll have to just discuss it and take a better look at what we can do there. I'm not sure exactly what can be done, but
Well, I think it's fair to say that's a spot that would need some attention in the community. I could say that as a Phase 3 resident, I don't go through that gate very often, and I found that information just very illuminating about the issue down there. I just wasn't sensitive to it before. So, anybody in the audience would like to ask anything or say anything? Do we have anybody remotely that'd like to say anything? Whereas we're just about to wind down.
One more thing. This is Susan Donaldson. I hope we really do next steps, that the next steps include the traffic surveys, because I think responding to real data, I think, will be very important instead of anecdotal data.
And I think this was, I don't mean to speak for the committee, Lynn's got a few more comments to make, but I think it was an important first step to start getting objective information. One of my own personal observations from the data is there was a contradiction. There was a recognition of an issue, but there wasn't a desire to implement a solution to solve the issue. So that's sort of a conundrum that we as a community and safety and security has to sort of work with and work through to come up with some ideas that might be acceptable over the long run. Lynn, I've got a couple ending comments about the technology, but do you want to say anything first before
I do, just in regards to, here's a $64,000 question. Not that I have 64 cents, I do. How many people use the Trafalgar Gate? Wow, me too. In fact, very seldom up front. How many people have noticed that when you exit Trafalgar, there is a little addition. How many people have seen it?
A little stop sign on the gate.
A new stop sign that sticks up. Everybody saw it, didn't you? So how long has it been there?
A week.
Okay. I just thought that it was a note to add because everybody that I have talked to on my street, I live close to that end, or acquaintances that I have noticed it and have said, wow, when did we get that little sign? So
You might want to tell them why.
The trucks.
you go right ahead and tell them, sir. Who?
Because of trucks.
Huh?
Because the trucks can't see the bar.
Very good. Thank you. Did you hear?
It's underneath the line of vision.
But it's got everybody else stopping and thinking before they might late at night or have a visitor leaving, crash the gate, right? So I think that's just one of the things of what visuals sometimes do for us. I only want to thank having the opportunity to work with the committee just in the last few months, the past committee members, as well as all of those who I know you want to sign up and be on the committee now. But most of all, I want us to celebrate that I've been informed, because I'm not a historian here, is that this is our first Zoom meeting. So we thanked Victor and we thanked everybody, but there's a communications guy here that this was one of his goals, and it's been accomplished for all of us that are not here on, and I think Bill deserves a round of applause. Lots of work, lots of work. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we will be having more town halls for general Q&As over the course of the year. Obviously, Dave will be the star of the October one when we go over the budget for 2025. I'm hoping that our Internet Ad Hoc Committee will be in a position in the September-October timeframe to talk about internet replacement options to be considered. So things are moving along, and fingers crossed, we may actually have financial reports to share with everybody within a week to 10 days. So keep my fingers crossed on that. But what I would like to ask is anybody that was attending the meeting remotely, please feel free to send comments to me, good or bad, about how it was, the quality of the video, the quality of the sound, how it was handled mechanically, because this will help us get better, because over time, we're going to try to use this technology more and more for not just town hall meetings, but to try to get more interaction at the front end of our board meetings so that we can have remote residents still participate in the upfront section of the board meetings on a monthly basis. So with that, thank you, everybody, for attending, and go Bills tonight. Schedule came out. I got to go see it.
You did a fantastic job.
Good job.